Okay, we've been talking a little bit about these, the laptop and the laptops. I'll give you just a quick background on it, and you can read a lot about this on our website. If you go to our website, americacanwetalk.org, on the home page, under shows, drop down, list of links. I have a link to many, many stories. A lot of people writing about this. Rudy Giuliani, who's been fabulous about this, he's been doing on his podcast called Common Sense. And the reason he's so up to speed is because he actually got a copy of the hard drives. The one laptop that mattered the most, the hard drive, was eventually handed over to Rudy Giuliani's attorney. Now Rudy has them. He's just beginning to dive in. He's using the term the Biden crime family, and he's right. The Biden crime family does not begin to describe the corruption which has long been suspected, long been rumored, long been talked about in Washington, but now we have first-hand evidence. I'll get a little later to the question of what it is exactly the Democrats should do at this point. Elections are obviously now right around the corner. I think it's 3 weeks from tomorrow. We have the elections. We have the massive number of Americans worked into a frenzy on the left, thinking Biden's going to be their savior. And now they got Biden, who is so corrupt. I mean, he's also, sadly, suffering from dementia and probably will not be president very long if he were to win. But this is a corrupt individual we cannot have heading up the presidency, the White House, our foreign policy. You cannot have a man with this level of corruption in that office. But let me start. So I'll tell you really quickly. So Hunter Biden is one of the sons of Joe Biden, the candidate and former VP. Hunter Biden is the one who served in the Navy and got addicted to drugs. He has a huge drug problem, an ongoing drug problem, just is a mess. Got kicked out of the Navy over this, his conduct in the Navy. And so he's been floundering around. Daddy has found him various jobs. And they are, he's gotten very wealthy, made a lot of money in those jobs. So I'm going to start by, I think I sent Matt the Wonderful. One of the things that came out of these laptops, I'll tell you in a moment about how we came up with them. I'm just going to show you this one little text message that Hunter Biden sent to his daughter, Naomi. So this is a text message from Hunter Biden to his daughter, Naomi, that was recovered on this laptop. I love all of you, but I don't receive any respect, and that's fine, I guess. Works for you, apparently. I hope you all can do what I did and pay for everything for this entire family for 30 years. It's really hard, but don't worry. Unlike Pop, who is Joe Biden, I won't make you give me half your salary. So this is as Rudy Giuliani calls it, this is a description of how the crime family operated. It's a description of how the crime family operated in getting money, funneling money that came to Hunter Biden only because of his connection to his dad, and his dad skimming off all the money coming to his own son. Hunter is saying, yeah, dad always takes half of what I earn. Okay, Hunter doesn't earn 30 cents. As Rudy Giuliani pointed out, you could not trust Hunter Biden to give him $10 and say, can you run to the grocery store and get me a carton of milk? You wouldn't trust him with $10 or driving your car to the grocery store. And yet this is a guy whose payments, whose salary have been extraordinary for someone who's never had a real job in his life and has a serious drug problem. He's a mess. But let me just start with the things I learned about, if you haven't heard these stories at all. And one reason I want to do this little bit of a background, so we were talking to somebody last week, my husband and I were talking to somebody, this is a college-educated person, was telling us, they said, hey, did you hear this big story? Some guy dropped off a laptop somewhere, and somehow in the laptop, they think they have emails, something about Hunter Biden and his family. Did you know about this? Okay, and this is why I want to go into this story, because it is not some guy who dropped off laptops. Hunter Biden himself brought in 3 laptops to a repair place in Delaware, and he brought those in on April 12th of 2019. He brought them in because they had water damage. They had damage to the computers. He's trying to save them. The guy who owns this shop, John Paul Mac Isaac, his forenames, John Paul Mac Isaac, owns this shop. He described Hunter Biden when he brought these in as so inebriated he had a hard time signing his name. But he drops off these laptops, obviously not thinking what's on them, or not even, who knows what he was thinking. Anyway, he drops them off, and he actually came back once because this owner of the shop said, you know, he needed a keyboard for some reason, needed a keyboard to try to fix these laptops. Well, one was completely ruined, couldn't salvage anything. One he fixed up, and one he at least got the hard drive off of and got the hard drive fixed. So the guy fixes these computers, and then his shop does, and then he contacts Hunter Biden and says, hey, your computer's ready. Doesn't hear from him. This is a drop-off in April, and the call back to him, I think, was made in maybe May or maybe June. Does not hear back from Hunter Biden. June, July, August, doesn't hear back from him. Well, the terms of the policy, as it is in most stores, if you drop off your computer for repair, and the same thing is true of the dry cleaner everywhere. If you drop something off and never pick it up, at some point you surrender ownership. It belongs to the company that where you dropped it off and never picked it up. So long past that deadline, laptops now belong to this company, and this guy, John Paul Mac Isaac, is aware of some of the things on the hard drive. He recognizes very, very serious stuff of Hunter Biden's on the laptop. Very serious stuff related to Ukraine. And in fact, I'll tell you, there are the basic starting point of all this, as Rudy Giuliani is trying to help America understand this massive treasure trove of information of the corruption of the Biden crime family. Rudy Giuliani, broke down, well, there's a story of Iraq, Russia, Ukraine, and China. Iraq, Russia, Ukraine, and China. Just in the beginning, Rudy Giuliani said in one of the videos he's done about this, that there are other countries too where there now is actual email evidence between Hunter Biden and a variety of people all about the corruption, the deals they're cutting, how they're making contacts. Basically, they're selling influence, they're selling connection, they're selling by employing the completely useless Hunter Biden in some capacity in these companies. He gets paid, Joe Biden gets half the money, and the company is buying access to the vice president. That is textbook bribery, textbook corruption of a government official. But moving forward, I want to just tell you some of the other little pieces about the laptops before I get into the content of them. So about the laptops, was actually an amazing thing is at some point Hunter Biden sobered up or got straight for a day, realized, hey, wait a minute, that those might have had something bad on them. Hunter Biden had his attorney call the repair place, the computer repair place, and say, we'd like to reclaim our computers, which by that time, they're out of his hands, they're gone, they can't get them back. But it actually, as it turns out, was an extremely dumb move because now Hunter Biden can't say they weren't his. His lawyer is calling the shop and saying, hey, can we get these back? Hunter Biden's lawyer making that call. Next thing, it's really important to understand the effort this guy made to turn this into the FBI. Back to my point about we need to thoroughly clean out the FBI and DOJ. This guy tries bringing the Mac, bringing the computer to the FBI office in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So he brings it in, walks in the Albuquerque FBI office, spoke with an agent who wouldn't give him his name. He told him what he has. I think I have Hunter Biden's laptop and has all these emails that are really dangerous, and rebuffed by the FBI, basically told to get lost. Not interested. Yeah. Okay, so that was in mid-September 2019. Okay, so we can go forward with that story. I want to, and the other kind of interesting things are the FBI acted disinterested at that time, eventually did get copies of these hard drives, but then they sat on them. They sat on them. The American people are watching this farce of an impeachment against President Trump. And the impeachment is all about corruption of the Ukraine, which is what Trump had said to his Ukrainian counterpart, Zelensky. Hey, I think you might want to look into this corruption with Burisma. That's the company where the money funneled through, essentially from the Ukrainians through Burisma, that paid Hunter Biden, as it turns out, was about $80,000 a month for doing completely nothing. And this. So where I'm going with this story, So first you had the FBI say no thanks. Then you had the FBI has in their possession these computers and hard drives. So they're recognizing that what Trump got, FBI, what Trump got impeached for doing, didn't get removed, but got impeached by the House, is saying to Zelensky, you might want to look into this Burisma thing. They are sitting on evidence that exactly what Trump's concerned about actually happened. You can see the evidence on Hunter Biden's laptop. But the FBI is not speaking up. They are not forthcoming. This is why I tell you people, we need a massive cleaning out of the FBI, DOJ, all the way down the field offices, everywhere. They can reapply, and if all these pundits who say, 90% of the FBI and DOJ, these are great people, they wouldn't do anything wrong, okay, fine. Then they'll get rehired. And you can even reinstate their seniority and reinstate their benefits, whatever it takes. You can work those things out. You can work out seniority. You can work out, not letting them lose benefits during this strange time. We have to clean these agencies out. So back to Hunter Biden. So he leaves his laptop there at a Wilmington, Delaware store. And eventually, the hard drives end up, the FBI has them. They do nothing. And then and by the way, this owner of the computer repair shop, it was reported one place, I didn't find it in enough places, it reported one place that he realized how dangerous this stuff was that was on these hard drives. So he made copies of the hard drives and gave them to friends, just in case. Because he's wanting to say to anyone who's talking to him, other people have these hard drives, so don't think that it helps just to kill me. And he was worried about his life. So he makes copies of hard drives, gives them to others. Eventually, this guy gets the hard drive to Rudy Giuliani's lawyer. That lawyer gets it to Rudy Giuliani, and he in turn gets it to the New York Post. That's where the story erupted last week, because this owner of this shop is just flabbergasted and shocked that he cannot get the FBI to be interested. So then, going on from there, this owner actually contacted a Senate committee. John Paul Mac Isaac, told a Senate panel last week that Hunter Biden dropped off the machine himself and basically went forth with this committee. In fact, they talked about on this committee in the Senate, in fact, Senator Ron Johnson, on September 24th, his committee issued a report on how Hunter Biden profited from his father, Vice President Biden. He says, after that report came out, this is Senator Johnson, a whistleblower contacted my committee and informed my staff that he had possession of a laptop left in his business by Hunter Biden. So this guy, this Senator Johnson, is saying, he's had this same owner of the business reach out to him and say, somebody should care what's on here. Someone in authority should really care what's in here. So he reaches out to that committee, and now they're understanding they have the information also from this business owner. So there are just a whole host of reasons to understand the credibility of these laptop and the reports coming from about the laptop. There was an effort by Adam Schiff. He floated the idea, and CNN repeated it yesterday, floated the idea that, maybe this whole story, Hunter Biden emails, Hunter Biden laptop, maybe it's all false. Maybe it's a Russian disinformation campaign. Adam Schiff actually tried to float that to push it out of the public eye, to discredit what everyone's going to be reporting, what's on these laptops. Adam Schiff tried floating that story, saying, actually, this sounds a lot like a disinformation campaign. I'm not sure we should believe that. And so you did fortunately have our Director of National Intelligence speak up right away, Ratcliffe, and just said, basically, this is, in fact, from the great state of Texas, former Congressman, now Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, said, on the Hunter Biden laptops, the emails are not part of some Russian disinformation campaign. There is no intelligence that supports that. But, Adam Schiff looking for a reason to push these off the side and say, never mind, they're probably just Russian disinformation. DNI says, Ratcliffe goes, no way. Ratcliffe says, no way, they are not Russian disinformation. There's no intelligence, kind of like no science, no facts, no intelligence to back that up. Next piece to share with you is, so so all this information has come up, and you'll see, I'm sure, over the next weeks, details of what is in these emails. But I want to try to paint just a big picture, the overarching picture of what is emerging. And there's, again, I will urge you to go and look at Rudy Giuliani has his own podcast, which is called Common Sense. Very, very good. I think it's called Common Sense. You know, he's a very good explainer. And I want to remind you about Rudy Giuliani. He's a former prosecutor. He starts out by saying, I've prosecuted crime families. I've exposed mafia families. I know how crime families work. So he's laying out what he's seen so far, and he's just skimming the surface. I mean, there are, I don't know if it's hundreds of thousands, but thousands and tens of thousands of emails yet to be uncovered and exposed. You just saw that one, a little clip I showed you, just to show you how this is an actual email from Hunter Biden to his daughter, acknowledging, yeah, you know, I get all these deals, but I have to give Dad, Joe Biden, half the money. So start with Iraq. One quick thing that's in these emails, starting with Iraq. Joe Biden, and actually it was a kind of funny thing that Giuliani did. When Biden was vice president, you had President Obama using the expression, he would make Biden his point man. So Biden becomes, and as Rudy points out, in every single instance where Biden's made a point man on some international issue, number one, he can never solve it. He never, ever gets agreement. He never gets it to a deal. He can never solve it. So he never solves the problem he was sent to solve. But somehow by the time Biden comes home, he has enriched his own family. I mean, this is, people, textbook corruption. And I'm going to talk in a minute about why this matters as election cycle. I mean, there are many reasons it obviously matters, but why it matters even now, 3 weeks away from the election. But back to, so to start with Iraq. So Biden is sent to Iraq, and the reason was, we're trying to get our troops out of Iraq, and yet there's concern about, how we still have, because it was President Obama, we still had the caliphate over in that area of the world. We had ISIS and the caliphate. So Biden sent over to say to Iraq, look, we got to try to, we want to try to bring troops home, but we also want to protect people here. And so he's sent to negotiate that. Obviously, complete fail, 100% fail. But he managed while he was there, Joe Biden, to arrange for his brother James, this is another character in the Biden crime family, James Biden, who has exactly zero background, zero zip, not a nothing background in housing, but James Biden gets a $1.5 billion deal to build houses in Iraq. I mean, all by itself, people should be saying, what? I mean, this is total third-rate, lobbyist at K Street, often viewed as sleazy at least, maybe corrupt, and yet when Joe Biden goes over to Iraq on behalf of the Obama administration, he comes back, didn't solve a thing related to the expansion of ISIS and the caliphate, did manage to secure his brother a $1.5 billion deal to build houses in Iraq. His brother has no experience in building houses, in construction, or anything related to that. That by itself, my friends, should be a gigantic red flag. Should have been a red flag to the Obama administration. Should have been people, not just Obama himself, but people who are tasked with the idea of making sure nothing corrupt occurs, nothing looks bad for this administration. Is anyone doing things that are wrong? Just not a peep, got away with it. Next thing was Russia. It is such an interesting thing in Russia. This is having Giuliani, who's actually got the hard drive, talking about what's on it. So in Russia, they sent, whatever reason Joe Biden was sent over there, who knows, maybe to redo the non-reset, but whatever it was, Joe Biden got sent over to Russia, and somehow Hunter Biden ended up with $3.5 million from the wife of the former Moscow mayor, Katerina, and the mayor himself is now deceased, but she was married to the mayor, who is a huge ally of Putin. So you got Putin allies' money flowing into the Biden family. Now, if we had anything like a fair press in this country, all the time the left has been concocting lies about Trump and Russia collusion, somebody might have pointed out, wait a minute, why is Biden family and, apparently Big Joe getting half, Pop getting half, getting $3.5 million from this former Moscow mayor, Hunter Biden, who's, has no skills. This is not like, well, he's a really savvy businessman, or he's really, really heavily educated in the world of oil and natural gas. He's a druggie. He's not gotten his act together in life yet. And so, but yet, okay, that just seems, that's okay. And actually, Giuliani said, we don't know yet what that money was for, but somehow Putin money flowing to Biden was for something. It wasn't for nothing. Okay, next one's the Ukraine. Obviously, huge Ukraine story. We've been round around on the show about it, but you had Burisma, this entity that was corrupt to the core, that was led by a guy who got out of the Ukrainian government when they had their overthrow. And he, the Ukrainian founder of Burisma, hires Hunter Biden along with two other politically favored people, one being the stepson of John Kerry, a Heinz, so a John Kerry stepson in the Heinz family, also involved in Burisma. And you had a third person whose name I always forget, but whatever. The point is, these young people who have no idea of any kind, anything about energy policy, getting paid $80,000 a month, each of them, by Burisma. And this is then when you have the government deciding they're going to look into Burisma because it was very corrupt and the Ukrainian government knew it. That's when you had the famous clip we've played in the show many times, and we're probably going to play it again, but not today, where Joe Biden is speaking at the Council on Foreign Relations, knows he's being videoed, understands it's going to go out there in the world, and said to the world in this video, yeah, I withheld American aid. I told him, I'm leaving, I'm flying out of here in 6 hours, and you're going to fire that prosecutor who was looking into the corruption of Burisma that's paying Joe's son, or you don't get our aid, you don't get $1 billion. And whoever pushed back and said, well, you can't do this. Yes, I can. Call the president. Yes, I can. And so you had Joe Biden admitting on tape to doing exactly what they falsely, it wasn't even exactly, it was far worse than what President Trump was falsely accused of doing. In fact, Trump was trying to say, you might want to look into this. It looks really bad. And again, in this particular Ukraine thing, this is, President Obama sending Biden over to be the point man for the Ukraine. He manages to solve nothing. He was supposed to be helping the Ukrainians defend against Russian incursion, which was happening at that time. He wouldn't help them. He would not agree to allow them to have arms. Trump had to come along and agree to arm the Ukrainian people to stop the Russian invasion. Trump, the Russia collusion guy, is helping the Ukrainians to stop the Russian invasion. Nothing that Biden was sent to do did he accomplish. He didn't expose the corruption. He didn't help the Ukrainian people defend against Russia. And he did manage to get a fantastic deal for his son to get paid to do nothing. And he, on open, with cameras rolling, he's on stage, lights on him, tells the world, yeah, I threatened Ukraine to withhold $1 billion unless they fire this prosecutor. And I know the defense by the left is, well, it was a corrupt prosecutor and lots of people knew he was corrupt. That is not true. It's one of those other things the left just makes up. They just make up stuff to justify things. So again, the Biden crime family has been exposed. Many, 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 many emails related to all of this involving the Ukraine. Final one in this, and I'm going to have to wrap up this because I want one other quick story. But final in this very first show we're going to do about the what was on the Hunter Biden laptop involves China. And on the subject of China, there are emails showing, it's textbook corruption, showing that money flows to Hunter Biden, and then he sells access to his dad, Joe Biden, for a visit by these Chinese officials in the White House. They're not on the schedule, not on the calendar that everybody has to put out when you're in the White House. The president and vice president and probably others have to put their calendar out. Not on the calendar, but these are proven in these emails to have occurred, that the reason money flowed from China through Hunter Biden to Joe Biden was to get access to Joe Biden. People, this is the most explosive story imaginable. This is a bigger scandal than anything you can even imagine. This is the crime family of Joe Biden rolls on, and finally, because Hunter Biden was so drunk, he dropped off emails at a repair place and forgot about them because of his drug problem and his alcohol problem. And now the American public has these. Rudy Giuliani is going to be rolling them out. But I want to go back to why this matters to you. Obviously, you don't want to have a president of the United States who is so corrupt and sells his influence. But I'm telling you this story also because I want to say I hear so many people in this election cycle saying that this is a turnout election. That's all it is. You know, everyone's locked into their position. Everyone's locked in. They're either supporting Trump or they're supporting Biden, and that's it, and no one is to be changed. This is so not true. This stuff, if you had anything close to an actually fair media, a serious journalistic standard in America's media, in the New York Times and the Washington Post, and every media outlet, NBC, CBS, ABC, if you had anything close, an iota of journalistic integrity, this story would be the headlines every day from now to election day. That's what would happen. And if it were somehow corruption uncovered involving President Trump or any other prominent Republican, it'd be in the headlines every day from now to election day. But because it is not helpful, because in fact, it helps Trump, because it undermines Biden, because it exposes the Biden crime family, the media can hardly stand to cover this story. And that's where you come in. I'm telling you, even though people say this is a turnout election, everyone's decided, that is not true. This level of corruption, this level of pure, raw, selling political influence is unacceptable to a broad swath of Americans. A broad swath of Americans. People who maybe say, well, I don't like Trump's tweets. I wish he didn't tweet. I don't like his language about women. I don't like whatever it is. This would override objections to President Trump for many, many people. This kind of corruption, the level, the depth, the pure, raw, ugly, greedy, evil conduct now exposed, it truly would influence. I'm not saying, there are diehard Trump haters, and they might even say, I believe every word of it, I believe the whole laptop story, I believe everything's there, and I'm still going to vote for Biden because I don't like Trump. Fine. Trump haters will be that way. But there is a core of American goodness. I am talking millions of Americans who maybe thought Biden could help, wouldn't use such inflammatory language, or maybe whatever reason they had, they're going to vote Biden, who will be sick to their stomachs, sick to the core over what has been uncovered. Your job is to pass it along. There are so many ways you can go out there. Pass along links to this show. Pass along links to this segment. Pass along the link to Rudy Giuliani's podcast. Pass along the story, because if enough Americans understand, it can truly have the depth of corruption of the Biden crime family, there will be more and more Americans saying, we just can't have that in Washington. We just can't have it.